What's going on, everybody? Tim from Tierfon Orbital. Jawas Junkyard LOP. I got to be honest with you, I did not think I would like this hilt. But I really, really like it. It is absolutely beautiful. Premium metals, beautiful design. I like it. So, I did go with a custom chassis for this particular install. This is going to serve as a demo video for the client, but also I do want to talk about, my design process and what went into it, and we'll talk about how to use it. We'll throw a blade in it. Now with this particular install, I do have a blade that was sent to me by the client. The blade was by Devin Clark. Devin Clark did do a run of blades specifically for this hilt. The blade's super fun, so we're going to pop that in and do a demo, and then we'll be on our way, right? So let's come down. This is the hilt. So, yeah, it's super, super beautiful. Really, really good looking hilt. We've got brass on copper. I do believe that these brass parts, I'm not sure actually. I think this is anodized aluminum to make it look like brass. This is for sure real copper. And making our way up, I know that the emitter is aluminum. So either way, it still looks really, really beautiful. Like that blue on copper, or that blue on that brass looks really, really good, in my opinion. Just a phenomenal looking hilt. So with this hilt, it is not threaded. So to get the pommel off, there are set screws. The grip attaches to the switch section with set screws. And the switch section, in turn, connects to the upper part of the hilt with set screws. Now, that's fine. I mean, we figured out a way to get around that with a removable chassis, and that's fine. It didn't cause any issues for me. So it is a 2-button setup. I've got 2 tactile buttons underneath this switch. This was a little tricky doing this because of the indentation of where these switches are housed is not insulated. I did have to insulate the switch channels with some Kapton tape just to make sure we didn't get any false activations or anything like that from the switches, right? But yeah, other than that, super straightforward. I guess you would technically call this a thin neck, maybe? Yeah, sure. So anyway, let's talk about how to use it, right? So there are three set screws that go around the radius of this pommel section. I've already unscrewed them for the purposes of the video. You unscrew those set screws and your pommel comes off, okay? Here is the chassis. Now, why don't we talk about the chassis really quick, actually, and come into fusion. So this is the chassis I designed for this particular build. I did emboss it with Jawas Junkyard on one side. I've got Tierfon Orbital. Just some really light greebly work on this one. I've got some venting along the side. I did watch... So I watched actually the episode of Visions that has LOP just to get some inspiration. These greeblies on here are modeled after her droid. And around back here, this circular pattern is also in the show. I'm not quite sure what it stands for. But just to get some inspiration, I watched the show and threw some greeblies on this guy. Room for a 28mm speaker. The 28mm is from Smuggler's Outpost. Proffie board sits here in this tray. It is press fit, and we've got a kill switch up top. I do have a 6-rail PCB from CC Sabers that sits up here, and that's how we make a connection to the rest of the hilt, right? So coming back down, here is the chassis. So with this build, the spring side is your negative, and that is towards the speaker. So you want to put your battery in.
Without that blade, she's a pretender.
Already had it on. If you don't hear an audible cue or anything, you hit your kill switch, and that's it. Really, really simple. So to put your chassis in, there is an indentation along the upper part of this hilt. You really don't need to put it in any particular way. It'll make a connection to that PCB rail any way you set it in. But I have found that if you find where that indentation is, it just kind of, it just kind of drops in, okay? So once that's in, you take your pommel. Now there is a channel on the radius of the grip section here, and that's where you want to stick this I don't know what you would call this, but yeah, that's where you want to slide that in. Okay. I do have a very small ring on the inside of this pommel that helps to push the chassis and keep the chassis secure up into the rest of the hilt. I did that so I would keep some good resonance in the pommel itself. So once you've got the pommel in, you want to tighten your set screws. I'm only going to tighten the one for the purposes of the video, so you don't have to sit here and watch me tighten screws. Just make sure I guess you got to make sure your pommel's all the way in. Come on, Tim. And then tighten your set screw. Okay, and then you're ready to go. Let's come down to the bottom. So with this setup, the bottom toggle is your main, top is your aux.
He is the chosen one.
Twist to activate is on.
There are ways those who have passed on may still guide or influence the living.
So let's put this really cool blade in this thing really quick. So let's put this blade in. So this is a blade from Devin Clark, made specifically for this run. Super fun blade. So I do want to talk about putting this blade in the hilt. Okay, so the emitter section, like from Jawas, had a set screw. It is a very, very small. I mean, I think it was it's an M2 set screw. Very small, very, very low in the emitter section as well. And I just did not feel like, after putting my PCB holder in here, I did not feel like that was big enough or in a good enough spot to really grab the blade. So I popped a bigger set screw a little bit higher around the other side, and that way it grabs the stem of this blade much, much more secure, right? So you take your blade, put it in your emitter. Let's see if I can do this with two hands. I actually do give it a little bit of pressure when screwing it in. You want that stem as far down as it'll possibly go, because it's very shallow. It's a very shallow blade holder. And then you just tighten your set screw. Okay? And then you're good to go. Man, that looks so cool. This blade is so cool.
There's always a bigger fish.
I must be cautious wherever I go.
Let's see what else we got on here.
Disgraceful.
The dark saber.
Got a dark saber font.
Belongs to you.
There's a dark saber font, of course. Just a really, really cool looking blade. So I set it up with some different blade animations just to take advantage of the way the blade looks and how thin it is.
He is the chosen one.
I am becoming more powerful than any Jedi has ever dreamed of.
I could play with this blade all day long. It's really, really, really cool. So that's it. Thank you very much for watching. To the client, thank you very much for trusting me with your build. If anyone has any questions about this particular build or questions about the chassis, please don't be a stranger. And that's all I got. So with that being said, everyone, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you always.